We'll introduce ourselves, and we hope you will introduce yourselves, and then we'll get on with the testimony. I'm Steve Franzik. I teach political science at the U.S. Naval Academy.
I'm Margaret Branson, Associate Director for the Center for Civic Education.
And good afternoon. I'm Scott Kawasaki. I live in Fairbanks, Alaska, and I'm the youngest member of the Alaska State Legislature. Since this is the last one of the day, you guys are really going to have to wow us because I think we're tired.
Oh, they'll do it. They'll do it.
And, but I've heard good things about Colorado.
And would you please introduce yourselves?
Hello, my name is Logan Conkle, and I'm a junior.
I'm Zach McCain, I'm a junior.
I'm Michelle Sape, and I'm a junior.
I'm Wilson Scarberry, and I'm a junior. And that is our teacher, Mr. Mark Tallhofer.
Great. As you probably figured out, we're doing question number 3. Let me read that for everyone else. In comparison to other democracies, the American political culture still contains many of the values that make for a vibrant democracy, and these may have even increased over the past several decades. Tocqueville would not recognize contemporary America, but he still might conclude that his observations about democracy in America generally hold true today. Do you agree or disagree? Why? Tocqueville said there was a greater opportunity and equality of condition among people in America than anywhere else. Is that still true? What evidence can you offer to support your position? Tocqueville said Americans sought to rely on their own efforts to solve problems and resist the evils and difficulties of life. Is that still true today? And what evidence can you offer? You may begin.
Alexis de Tocqueville's work, Democracy in America, details his observations and critique of early American political culture. In his travels, Tocqueville noticed that Americans were guided by an enlightened self-interest, whereby they would voluntarily join together in associations to further the interest of the group and to serve their own interests. With this in mind, Americans demonstrated how an enlightened regard for themselves constantly prompts them to assist each other. Tocqueville noticed that there was a tendency of modern states to head toward despotism, not democracy. Political freedom is difficult to achieve, Tocqueville observed, and it requires diligent leadership and the right mix of institutions. De Tocqueville viewed the liberal democracy of the United States as a happy exception to most political arrangements around the world. A major component of Americans' collective resistance to less liberal forms of governance has been the creation of free institutions.
Civic associations, de Tocqueville argues, draw citizens outside of themselves and allow for self-governance on a small scale. But perhaps more important, when opportunities for self-governance are combined with the pursuit of common interests and values, civic associations can transform themselves into political organizations, groups aimed at actively shaping political outcomes. The key to the latter involves having a chance to do so, because these associations exist in a democratic polity. De Tocqueville observed that American society provided equality of condition to its citizenry. We submit that even during de Tocqueville's time, this observation was inaccurate. Equality of condition amounts to pure egalitarianism and is not supported by a capitalist society. However, de Tocqueville himself recognized that equality of condition was a condition of a socialist society, and to distinguish one from the other, he observed that socialism achieves equality through restraint and servitude, whereas democracy achieves equality through liberty.
While Americans have always valued the ability to climb the ladder of success, it would be naive to suggest that all persons of equal talent and ambition are afforded equal opportunity. Still today, public schools, libraries, and healthcare are better in wealthier communities. Certainly, this was even more apparent when de Tocqueville traveled to the U.S. in 1831. Nonetheless, we agree that de Tocqueville may not recognize American society today, but perhaps for different reasons than the author of this quote. We believe that the changes American society has undergone in the past several decades makes ours an even more exceptional democratic state than the one he observed. First, the political culture of America emphasizes the importance of the individual to governmental success.
Our democratic process relies on voting rights, freedom of speech, civic engagement, and individual participation. Tocqueville visited our country prior to the enactment of the 15th, 19th, 24th, and 26th Amendments, as well as the Voting Rights Act of 1965, all which greatly expanded individual participation by removing barriers for women and minorities in politics. In addition, the American judicial system, as established by Article 3 and armed with the power of judicial review after Marbury versus Madison, also perpetuates the values that make for vibrant democracy. Perhaps the best examples of this come from the civil rights movement of the mid-20th century. At this time, some Americans use the courts to redress grievances and societal wrongs. For example, Brown v. Board of Education overturned the long-standing policy of separate but equal as established by Plessy versus Ferguson. Ultimately, a vibrant democracy must rely on the knowledge, skill, and virtues of its citizens and their elected officials. Education that imparts that knowledge and skill and fosters those values is essential to the preservation and improvement of the American constitutional democracy and civic life. We are now open to questions.
Thank you. Margaret?
I appreciate your argument that equality of condition may lead to socialism, or that it would be inconsistent with notions of capitalism. But I'm wondering if you would identify and believe that there are any obligations that government has to produce opportunities or equalize opportunities for people.
I believe one of the main governmental responsibilities is for education of its citizens. To keep informed voters, we need to have education available to all, and they need to ensure equality.
As my colleague Ms. Sape talked about, education is essential in America, and public schools provide opportunities for many citizens of the United States. And as a study in the census shows, people that reach higher education levels are more likely to participate in government and more likely to vote. So by educating our citizens, we are giving them an education as well as encouraging democratic values such as voting.
And before we can look to things such as education, the government feels an obligation to give other basic opportunities to the citizens of the United States. For instance, Section 8 of the 1974 U.S. Housing Act created government subsidized housing, which before educating, we need to give people more basic privileges and opportunities and basic amenities if they are to become citizens of our country.